How we doing, YouTubes? Time to just do a quick recap or maybe refresher on the best decks to use to climb MTG Arena. We got like a week left in the current season, so if you're like me, I was like, what decks do I play to climb the ladder and at least get to gold so I can get my gold and packs as prizes? And you usually want to build some kind of new deck, use your wild cards and something that makes sense. So I like to come to MTG Goldfish, look at the best decks that have been played over the last couple weeks since the set's been out, had some time to breathe. There's really not much difference between 7 and 14 days. The top 5 decks are what they are, and I'll just kind of give you my quick rundown of which ones I think are worth building and which ones I'm playing. So Esper Midrange, this is my favorite deck that's really come to the top of the tier 1 decks as a result or since New Capenna has been released. Honestly, New Capenna has not had much of an impact on Standard, but Esper Midrange is probably the one that leans the most into the New Capenna cards because it plays a playset of Raffine, which on Arena is not quite as expensive as if it were in paper because this card's not cheap. But the whole idea is you play a 2-drop, maybe you play a 3-drop being Raffine, and then you can just start attacking, conniving, finding answers for whatever your opponent's doing, and just grinding them out with value. It's a mid-range deck, which seems to be where I just fall into whenever I'm playing Magic. I like to just have strong cards that don't have like a clear, here's my win con, but more of my cards in play will be better than yours, and I will keep you from turning the tables on me, so to speak. So there's a handful of monocolored cards, there's a handful of really strong creatures that decks rely on, so you need some removal interaction in your deck. Infernal Grasp and Vanishing Verse are just really good there. Void Rend you can play a copy of. In best of one, you might want to tweak it just depending on what decks you keep seeing yourself run into. But again, the idea here is you're getting some creatures, you're getting some invasive threats, and then you're attacking in, and then every deck that plays black unfortunately has Meathook Massacre. But I have not been upset with this game plan thus far. It's just felt like a really strong, consistent deck. The conniving and having blitz creatures like Tenacious Underdog, card draw with Kaito, Wandering Emperor for more interaction, and then Lolth, the Spider Queen. You're always just finding ways to find an answer or find a way to win, assuming the game is even close, you're not just getting ran over by aggro or had to mulligan 3 times. Yeah, Esper Midrange, all in all, been the deck I've enjoyed playing the most when I want to play a game. If I'm just trying to climb, usually I'll play aggro, which I'll show you which aggro deck I'm playing here towards the end. But if you want to play Magic, Esper Midrange has felt like the most fun. Naya Enchantments, I won't spend long on this. This thing hasn't really changed. The only real change from our last set is that we play a playset of Jetmir's Garden now. So if you want to just keep playing the same deck you played from the last set, this is still your go-to. In case you're not familiar with it, the way this deck works, we're playing enchantments to then pump up our things and run our opponent over. And the way we do that is really the combo between Jeskai Naturalist and Runeforge Champion. Naturalist makes everything, or our enchantment spells cost 1. Runeforge makes all of our runes cost 1. So if these are both in play, you can play all the runes you draw for free. So in one turn, you can go from really no board state to Kami of Transience here, getting absolutely massive and just running your opponent over with like a 17/17 lifelink, trample, haste. It's just, that's it. I like to play more Tamiyo Safekeeping. That's the one change I have from this deck list, is I like to play 3 of these just because usually if you can just stop your opponent from doing the thing once, they just scoop because they're like, whatever, I don't care, I just want to move on to the next game. But this deck in general, if you've been rocking it since the last set, just keep rocking it. Next is Jeskai Control, another deck that hasn't really changed. If you've been playing it, I don't think there's any actual new cards that have made the cut. It's just kind of changed a bit here and there in regard to which interaction we're playing or who's our actual win con, but this is another deck where we're just hanging on, annoying our opponent. We can phase out their stuff, remove their stuff, find a way to keep the board clear until Lear shows up or Goldspan Dragon just gets us in for the win. I don't like this game plan quite as much. I don't know, just not as fun to me as the Esper Midrange. The other new-ish deck is Jund Midrange, which doesn't have a ton of New Capenna cards, but there's a copy of the Titan of Industry. This is kind of the card we're ramping into. Again, keep the board somewhat clear, or it's just our biggest thing in play, and at some point we can drop this bad boy and just take over the game. Saruf Realm Eater, I think, is actually like the most fun card that we didn't really see in Standard until it showed up in this deck. And the reason it's cool is because it keeps getting bigger, and then if at some point you need to, you can use it as a removal spell, board wipe type deal as well. Tenacious Underdog making an appearance here, and then Ob Nixilis, like that's the other kind of big heavy hitter from New Capenna for this deck, and we're doing Jund things. Oh, Riveteer's Charm's the other like nice way if they're kind of on that Voltron strategy, or they have one big expensive creature they're waiting to get down. Sure, play it, and then we can make them sacrifice it so they can't like give it protection or indestructible or whatever. Riveteer's Charm's a nice clever way to get around that. Meathook Massacre, hey look, it's in every deck. Could we just ban this card? I would not mind if this card got banned. And then we play a playset of the Triome or Zator's Proving Ground. It's just just fun Jund deck. If you want to play Jund, a Jund mid-range I think would be a top tier selection as well. Just another fun, kind of grindy game, but is what it is. And then Grixis Vampires is probably the deck that uses the most new Capenna cards. And it doesn't use a ton of new rares and mythics, so if you're running low on wildcards, this could be another really strong option for you. We got some aggro things so we can get down early, because there's just, I mean, that's just how Magic has moved. They've printed so many good 1, 2, 3 drops that you just have to have either a ton of interaction or cards to match any other aggro game plan. Ours are Bloodthirsty Adversary and Blood Tithe Harvester. Tenacious Underdog shows up here. Now, you could play multiple of these. I think one is fine with the build I've ran. And then Corpse Appraiser is probably my favorite. A 3/3 for 3 is not bad. That draws you a card and gets to exile things out of the graveyard. There's just some flexibility here. So it's good and limited. It's good and constructed. Then we've also got Evelyn, who's just a lot of fun. You know, the problem is that she's 5, and being 5 mana in this format can be tough, but her being instant speed gives us that kind of what are we doing? We have blue up. Do they think we're going to counter it? The intimidation factor can be nice, and if the game does get stalled out, Evelyn can be that way you get ahead, or you find a way to get ahead on cards. Kaito's kind of been this huge just play in all the top decks because of the card draw. Maybe getting the unblockable creature is important, but really it's just the card draw and attacking, and that's kind of it. We're playing all cards that you probably already familiar with if you're playing much standard. Fable of the Mirror Breaker has just also been another auto-include in a ton of decks, and more Meathook Maskers. Oh my goodness. The Triumphs here, all the rare lands. If you haven't built a deck, I would not recommend this one though, because it is super wildcard heavy with all the rare lands and such, but it's another fun, if Esper's not your jam and you don't want to do the conniving thing, if you're not into Jund, Grixis Vampires could be your best bet. But then my other deck that I'm playing, in the last video I had a mono red aggro deck. Now I'm going mono white aggro because it just feels a bit more flexible. If you have the mono red deck, you can still play it. It'll still work, especially if you're on the play. But I like this one a bit more because it's a bit more interactive than mono red. So Hopeful Initiate can be the way to get rid of enchantments or stuff. There's a lot of enchantments and artifacts that opponents are running depending on the deck they're playing or the game plan they have. And then here, the going wide. If we go wide just a little bit, then we have cards like Intrepid Adversary or Adeline that can be those heavy hitters. And then if we need, we got Brutal Cathar as another way to like deal with problem cards on the board. Elite Spellbinder and Radain, nailed it, are just good interaction ways to mess with our opponents. And then the Wandering Emperor is just a super strong card. So we can find a way to usually win the race, as it were. So mono white has been my now aggro. If you just want to climb really quick, wild cards aren't a thing. It's more of a time thing. Go with mono white aggro. If you want to just play fun games of Magic that you can find creative ways to win, Esper Midrange would be my next bet. If you just want to do nothing from last set, keep rocking Naya Enchantments. Hopefully that does it for you. I don't think there's anything really too different this go around. I mean, New Capenna did not really change much, unfortunately. There just wasn't a ton of heavy hitters in the set, and we got a ways to go until the next expansion set. So best of luck to you if you're climbing the ladder. I would definitely recommend get to at least gold, because you get 1,000 gold and you get some packs, and that just helps build your collection on Arena. And you get, it's easier to get to gold than to get, actually it's easier to get into platinum too, because you get 2 ticks up the wheel and just you lose 1 per loss. So getting to gold isn't too tough. It's just kind of a time sink. But that's going to do it for me, folks. Hope you at least saw something. I'll have all the deck lists and descriptions down below. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments. But I really appreciate you watching. We'll see you in the next one, my friends. Take it easy. Peace.